The wedding industry in Ireland is huge. It always has been. It took a little bit of a dip in the recession, but it's back again. There are on average 22,000 weddings a year in Ireland, and there's big spending in those weddings. People are spending on the dresses, they're spending on the suits, spending big on hotels, they're buying jewellery across the country, and of course there's a huge amount spent in the wedding band. I mean, you have to have a good wedding band at an Irish wedding.
I would have always had the mentality of a wedding band, you know, there was a kind of a stigma associated with it. It was, you know, a bunch of lads, you know, 5 old lads, you know, with pot bellies and black shirts, and they were, you know, doing this as an amateur thing at the weekend. But you got to see the standard of some of the musicianship and some of the guys that were playing in these wedding bands. You couldn't help but respect it. It was a full-on, you know, proper, serious operation. So I remember seeing a band called the Groove Orchestra in Cork, and they used to do a showcase in the city centre every Wednesday evening. And so I went in to see them one Wednesday evening. I remember being blown away, thinking, these guys are incredible. Then I found out the price they were getting for weddings, and like I couldn't believe it. I was thinking, hang on a second, like that's 1,000 times more than what we're getting paid in these tiny little back bars, you know, down the country, you know, where nobody's going. So that was an eye opener for me. That was the start of, okay, there's an actual whole industry around this. Why don't I know anything about it, you know? And I want to know more. So that's when I kind of opened my eyes to it. I joined a band called Strictly 60s. So it was a guy from Cork called Martin Finn, and he wanted to set up something that was a little bit different. So it was a band that played just 60s music. 60s music was still quite cool and popular, you know, because I suppose a lot of the generation that would have grown up in the 60s were still maybe just about getting married, you know, 10, 15 years ago. So that band was great fun. It was I played drums and I sang backing vocals, and then one night I had to step out front because our singer wasn't able to do the gig or whatever, so we got in another drummer to replace me, and I stepped out front just to sing some songs and play a bit of guitar. And after the gig, the band leader said to me, okay, now you're out front from now on, this is your job. So that was my first outing in a wedding band. We did a few weddings, but being young and not having experienced much of the world, I went off and I went travelling in South America for a year, and whilst I was away I got an email from the band leader in the Groove Orchestra asking if on my return I'd be interested in joining the band. I'd love to join the band, you know, this is a busy band, you know, they make loads of money and all this. So I came back, joined the band, and we set up a kind of a sister band to go with it, same musicians but with a different kind of a feel. And the Groove Orchestra is very formal and official, you know, from corporate events and so on. And then we set up a band, an identical band called the Aristocrats, but it was a little bit more wacky, you know, bright, loud suits. You know, I got a red tuxedo made up with a top hat and all that kind of stuff. So it was a little bit more visually striking. That band didn't last because of the balance, and it was a real eye opener when I had just been introduced into this industry. I was immediately involved in one of the busiest bands in the industry, and I saw it going from, you know, overnight success to immediate crash in the space of 12 months. It was phenomenal, you know, but what a fast learning curve, you know. You got to learn what is wanted from the musician's perspective, and you get to learn what is expected from a customer's perspective, and you also get to learn what the mindset is currently of the agent / promoter. So bear in mind the model of the promoter / agent / manager, that model was still a hangover of, you know, what was happening since the 50s, 60s, 70s. Then the internet changed all of that. The internet changed the way in which a customer and a band can connect. You know, all of a sudden they have a much more immediate route. They don't have to just go to the Yellow Pages, find a promotions company or an agent and ring him and he holds the key to everything. Now the internet was opening up, so bands were kind of setting up their own websites. Facebook was coming on stream, you know, so all of a sudden bands had a voice, they had a platform to be able to connect with customers directly. And I think at that time there was an awareness that the old model and the way the industry had been working to date was changing, or it was about to change heavily, and it did. And in the space of a couple of years, things changed dramatically. I happened to be on the turn of that change. I was a fly on the wall witnessing the whole thing, and I suppose I saw an opportunity there to do things a little bit differently. So that's when we went and we set up the Marbles. We put aside a good bit of money and we invested in a promo video, but it wasn't like anything that bands had up until that point. This was a full-scale production music video. You know, we had helicopters, we had Ferraris, we had limousines, we had, you know, motorbike stunts, we had all these crazy things. And, you know, there was no, when a new wedding couple looked at this, the immediate thought was, there's no way we can afford this band. These guys must be, you know, 20 grand, like they're not. And then they discovered, these guys are Irish, what? You know, hang on, they were a wedding band. No, this can't, hang on a second. We can actually afford these guys. So you were immediately putting yourself at the top of the shortlist for any wedding couple, because they all wanted something different. Everyone wants something different. They don't want their wedding to be the same as the next one. So we were using the power of suggestion to say, we're different, we're better, we're more professional, we're more slick. We'd only been together a few months officially, but you know, it was a way of presenting yourselves ahead of the pack. The main barrier for a band to be able to do what we had just done was maybe finance. So, you know, we had invested a lot of money. You know, we put about 20 grand into kind of promoting ourselves between the video and, you know, getting gear and all that kind of stuff. And whilst, you know, bands would maybe spend that over a period of time, or they might even spend that amount of money on gear over time, they wouldn't have spent it on promo video, because it was hard for them to see the tangible results with that. Whereas we were proving the tangible results. We were able to show, look, you know, we spent this money, now look what's happened. So bands started to notice, they started to approach, looking to see if I'd be able to help them out doing, you know, their own promotion, and I did. So I set up a band, or I didn't set them up, I started working with a young band called The Incredibles, who are still flying today, they're still doing great. Then we started taking on a few other bands, Pearls from Limerick, hugely successful band, and we just applied the same model, doing the big promo video, nice clean website, you know, and all of the, I suppose, the convenient, you know, admin tools to be able to help us through the booking process. So that kind of started the whole Red Entertainment business as an agency. So I set up Red Entertainment in 2008, and that's when I took on The Incredibles after the Marvels, and then we took on the Pearls and the Seducers, and we've kind of incrementally taken on more bands over the last 8 years, and now we work with 10 bands, and you know, that keeps us busy.
I thought I was reasonably educated at music in my thought and theory in my mind, and then I would see wedding bands playing and I kind of thought, this is a joke, you know what I mean? Standard stuff that needs to be popped out to the general public, you know. But since, you know, when I got into it then and started playing with bands at weddings, then I began to understand, you know, it's okay arriving at a wedding and I'm one of the people at the wedding and the band are playing, they're up there getting their gear ready, getting ready to play the gig, you know. I mean, it's not for me to say that I could judge them on what they were doing. I couldn't understand what they were doing, yeah. But my taste of music is personal. So my flavour to what I do as a musician, you know, it isn't, normally wouldn't be playing John Dolan or Neil Diamond or any kind of stuff like that, any music like that. So when I started to play with the wedding bands, I began to understand what the scene was about. And then I began to find, this is really good, you know. Play with a few different wedding bands, some of them have been good, some of them have been okay, you know. It's motivation, you know, it's difficult work.
We had done a few weddings at this stage, but not many. We definitely didn't consider ourselves a wedding band. But, you know, it wasn't something we wanted to do or we advertised or anything like that. It was just if someone wanted us to do their wedding, sure, we'd do the wedding, you know, but we were too cool to be a wedding band. You know, that was the thing. To be honest with you, at the time, looking at the diary with pubs, Escapade didn't even have a viable business anymore. It was gone so quiet. There was no money for a big band. There was plenty of gigs for a one or two-man band, but not for a four-piece band. It was it wasn't feasible. You wouldn't make anything off it, like, you know, it wouldn't be worth living. And the only thing is we had some weddings in the book, and I said, if we could push the weddings and start taking it seriously, there is a future as a wedding band, because the weddings were starting to get better and better, and we were getting more popular, you know. And now we're fully fledged wedding band, you name it, you know. That's it. It's what we do. It's just basically, as I said, nobody leaves school thinking someday I'm going to be in a successful wedding band. You know, it's always, you have a dream of being in a rock band and being famous and doing original stuff and all, but obviously down the line, when it comes to trying to make a living doing something you love, in Ireland anyway at the moment, the wedding industry is the only place to make some decent money, like, you know.
You know, it's hard work, but it's a financial gain. There's money to be made in the weddings. And
there's a lot of bands out there that said, you know, we're not a wedding band, but we'll do your wedding, but we're not a wedding band. You know, it's not cool. I don't care personally, but some people probably have an attitude about wedding bands. Look, again, it's not something you do leaving school saying, someday I want to be in a wedding band, they're my heroes. You know, it's not. But it's an industry that you can make a nice living from in a country like, you know, like Ireland, you know. There's always people getting married.
The stats we see coming through the wedding magazine is that 94% of couples are using wedding bands. In America, very few people have wedding bands. It's nearly unheard of. But here, people will not, even though it's a big spend, and it's a fantastic spend, people feel it's very worth it to have a good wedding band.
We often get English people here saying, I've never seen a live band at a wedding. You know, it's always a DJ, and the DJ starts at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and he's finished at 10 and everyone's at home. But here, like, it's only starting when, you know, it's just totally different. You're like, you know, most Irish weddings go on till the early hours of the morning, 2:30, the music will stop till 2:30, 3 o'clock, and then it'll go into the residence bar, and then they'll milk the residence bar and get up for breakfast and maybe go to bed then. But no, it's a different culture, all right. And thankfully, it's very seldom that people will just go for a DJ for an Irish wedding, unless it's a really small wedding maybe, and, you know, the budget's tight or whatever. But no, I think a live band makes a wedding, and as anyone says, the band is the most important part of the wedding.
3 things people remember about a wedding is the bride's dress, was the food good, and the wedding band.
Our kind of motto is to fill the dance floor and keep it full for the night. So that starts with the first dance. And if you don't utilise the first dance, forget about it. So you people down there after eating 4 or 5 course meal, listening to speeches, sometimes they're very entertaining, sometimes they're very boring, and sometimes they're very long. So they're sitting down in their seats, some of them falling asleep, and you need to wake them up and get them dancing. So the first dance is very important. So what we do is we will not introduce the bride and groom onto the floor unless we have everyone up around the dance floor. And we have everyone up around the floor, introduce the bride and groom, do the first dance, and then bang, straight into good lively numbers, get them dancing. Once you get them dancing at all, you have them awake.
David Escapade and Eugene, the lead man, the lead singer now, he's full of motivation and full of life, and from the word go, he had people up on the floor dancing. There was no ifs or buts about it, like. And for the whole night, the whole evening, that's the way it went.
We don't stop. It flows from one to the other. There's no stopping up, chatting to the guys, what'll we do now? Because you've got a dance floor full of people. The last thing you want is the music to stop, and they're looking at you going, what are you going to play next? You know, you have to be going. The next song, the minute one stops, the next song is in. And the first half of the show would be all done in sets, and it's all about the dancers. The jivers sit down, the waltzers come in, waltzers sit down, the quick steps come in, and that's what we do. It's all sets. The second half is more interactive, and it's more modern, the set. The younger crowd then are loaded up a bit more, and they're a bit more Dutch courage. So the second half will be doing more of our pub set. We'll say some chart and some rock and some soul, and it's more interactive. We get the crowd involved, we get the girls and the guys, and we do sing-offs and we do trains and stuff. And but it's the second half of the show that really sets us apart. But like, you can't forget the first half, because your aunts and uncles and parents and stuff at the wedding, they want to dance, they want their waltzes too and their bits and pieces. If they get that, they're happy, and you can do whatever you want in the second half then and keep everyone happy, you know. So yeah, the second half of the show is more interactive. We don't just stand on stage, everyone's off the stage on the floor in some stages, you know. The first half will be, as I say, just, it's all sets, and it's all about the dancers and stuff for the older crowd. We travel the country, and if the gig is there, we'll do it, you know what I mean? And we have a van, so mileage isn't the problem, like, you know. Then we went up to Bundoran and then back down to Castletownbere, you know, which ridiculous, like, you know. But I've never done a wedding in Donegal, and this year we had 2. 8 days apart, which was fun. But what you call it? But look, you take them, you know, and that's it. We've done weddings on Inishmore, the Aran Islands, you know, which you have to stay over. You have to get a boat out, but it's a bit of fun. It's something different as well, like, you know. And then we also have a residency in Limerick in Smith's Bar every Thursday night. So that's 50 odd gigs a year as well. So we do a few venues as well throughout the country. We're not pushing ourselves in the venues, but if there's a gig there, or if there's a corporate gig or college gig, we'll do it, like, you know. So all in all, like, you know, it's 150-ish, probably, you know, up around there. Facebook has made everything more accessible. Good and bad way, obviously, because if you don't do your job, everyone has a voice now. Before, you had to go on Joe Duffy, but if you go out and mess someone over, you can go on Facebook and you could be ruined like that, you know. But also, like, you have to be professional about it. You have to keep pushing it, and that's what I tried to do. When I started taking weddings seriously, obviously before, it wasn't something that we'd planned to do. But when we started taking it seriously, I said, right, if we're going for this, we have to go full hog, and we have to be professional. We have to give money, you know, and value for money. We have to do a good gig, and you're only as good as your last gig. And look, I have a great bunch of lads with me as well that kind of buy into the ethos, you know. We do a good long set as well, which a lot of guys kind of say, whoa, what the hell, you know, because some bands are off the stage at 12 o'clock no matter what. But I'm there, look, these guys are paying good money to pay you to play their wedding. You give them their money's worth. And, you know, if the wedding gets delayed or anything like that, which happens because people lose track of the time, you can't say I'm gone at 12 o'clock. I've started a wedding at 12:15 one night. Do you know, and there's some bands that are gone off the stage, they're gone, you know, they wouldn't even start. No, it's not the way we work, like, you know, and I'm hoping because of the attitude we have and the products and the effort we put in, we get rewarded for it. And it is working for us because we are getting busier and busier, like, you know.
Each year, Brides of Limerick host Brides of Limerick Wedding Industry Awards, and actually the Band of the Year for 2015, and again, who won by public vote in 2016, was a Limerick band called Escapade.
It's just a great boost to get voted, to get voted and get to win the award. And, you know, it's look, if anything, it's a bit of notoriety, and it's just something that if someone says, well, these guys won an award, they must be good. So straight away, they might put you up on the list and take you a bit more seriously, like, you know. That's it, you know, because like when you're Googling wedding bands, you're hit with hundreds and hundreds of bands and everything looks good, and sure, how do you decide and how do you get through them? So just having the awards alone is as I say, it's a great little boost for the business, like, you know, and gets people to take you a bit more seriously. And they say, look, you know, we'll check these out, we'll put them in the A list or whatever, and we'll check these out because they've won an award, like, you know. So no, it's hard work is starting to pay off, you know what I mean, and it's nice to get a reward for it, like, you know, because we put in a lot of effort in the last few years. As I say, when we decided to take the wedding industry seriously, you either go full hog or forget about it, I think, like, you know. So we've put in a lot of effort, and it's been paid off, like, you know. It's rewarding. They have made us a better performer, yeah. We're very professional, and I suppose when we decided, if this is what I come up with, I said, obviously when we started doing weddings first, this was a totally different kettle of fish to a pub gig. You know, a pub gig crowd are usually a bit more drunk, and it's a totally different story. So it took us a while to kind of get used to it and to pick our set. You know, the songs, what songs work, when they work, and how it works. And you start off rocky, and you'll end up like, you know, basically, like, it's weird because you start getting used to it. You finally get the crowd on the floor, and then what happens? An hour later, or an hour and a half later, the hotel wants you to take a break for 15 minutes to give teas and coffees and give them more food and kind of stop them again. So again, trying to get them back, you're starting the gig from scratch again, trying to get them back on the floor, and you have to pick good songs that work to get people onto the floor. And, you know, we have done that. We have, you know, we have songs we usually play, Proud Mary, and it gets the women going straight away when you start doing the riff and gets them on the floor. And there's been one wedding, I think, that we never had anyone on the floor at the end of the slow bit in Proud Mary, and I said, this is going to be tough. But because it always works. But that's what it's about. But it has made us professional, yeah. Even the guys, they barely get a chance to get a drink of water in between songs, you know, because but look, everyone's on board with it, and they understand that's what we have to do. And there's guys standing in with us saying, wow, I've never seen a band that goes from one song to the next so fast. And I'm just there, you have to, because you can't stop up. It's grand taking a couple of seconds between sets, but like between songs and stopping up saying, right, what do we do now? You can't do that. So I always call the next song halfway through one song. Everyone knows it's coming in, and bang, straight away after it. You know, that's the way it goes, you know.
When I started playing with the wedding bands, then everything became very structured, very tidy and very tight. And, you know, that's, you know, like that's the way it's meant to be, because you don't have time to drink a glass of water when you're playing the wedding band. You know, you have to keep your head in the music. So song after song after song after song, people are up on the floor dancing. You're going to enjoy it anyway if they're up to dancing. And the fact that you're playing these particular songs, that keeps them on the floor. You know, that's the whole importance of playing in a wedding band. The crowd, you have to please the crowd, and the music has to sound good, you know.
If there was a time that I could step back, as long as, but what I'd have to do in that situation is, like, I'd have to introduce a new singer, and I'd play out all the weddings that I'd have booked, because you couldn't just send on a new singer all of a sudden and say, right, here you go, and they say, what the hell is this? Especially the singer is more personal. And I think if you book a singer, you have to get the singer that you book, you know. So it's something that we'd have to introduce another singer into the band, maybe do showcases and get everyone, all the new weddings, to come in and say, look, if you're interested, booking him, perfect, you know, and play out whatever gigs I have then. But that's down the line, as I say. I've no plans to sit back yet, like, you know what I mean. But I'm just saying, look, like, there is going to be a time, but that doesn't mean the band has to stop. You know what I mean? We could keep the business going. And as long as we're successful and still getting the bookings, I think it can be, like, you know, it can be longevity in it, like, you know. But you have to keep pushing it, you know.
I'd probably do it again down the line, you know, and I'll keep doing it, because it's good fun, you know, really enjoyable. And most important, you play with good musicians and good bunch of lads as well. You can speak to and relax around, and an atmosphere is created.